Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Get Crackin'. How is everybody doing? Hello, Linda. Hi, Barb. Samistic. That was a tongue tie for me today. Hello, Jennifer and Karen. Thank you guys so much for joining me. You can let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and maybe if you're actually working on your holiday cards tonight. Hello, hello. Hello, Mary Lou and Margot, Nicole, Sharon, Kelly, Tracy. Awesome. All right, you guys, it is September, which means we have 4 months until Christmas. That's a lie. 3 months, right? October, November. Yeah, 3 months. 3 months until Christmas. It is time to get cracking. All right. Awesome, awesome. So let me tell you guys real quick what Get Crackin' on Christmas is all about for those of you that might be new here, whether you're watching live or catching this on the replay. Hello, everybody. I'm Jen Shirkus, and Get Crackin' on Christmas. I started this with my friend Shari, just between her and I, not even publicizing it. Because she and I love to buy all the holiday stamps, and then we don't necessarily get a chance to use all the holiday stamps or get a chance to make as many holiday cards as we had hoped. Come around end of November, early December, all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I didn't get a chance to make as much as I wanted to. So she and I kind of challenged each other to make one holiday card a month. This was a few years ago. I started sharing. We started the Get Crackin' on Christmas. And now I make 1 or 2, maybe a set of cards a month. And come the holiday season, I have a bigger stack of holiday cards to send out to family and friends. And I'm using more of my supplies. I'm playing with different techniques and experimenting a bit more. And I'm just enjoying the process more. So I post it because I'm trying to encourage you guys to make more holiday cards as well. So thank you guys so much for joining. Hello, Wash Ashore crew. Hi, Jen. Jen is not working on cards, but she's working on video marketing for Arts Barnstable. Get it, girl. Woohoo! All right. So tonight we are going to be playing with some Hero Arts, some Distress Watercolor pencils. So Bonnie just said, can you do a quick chat about Oxide with blending brushes versus blending tools? I don't know which I should use. So Bonnie, kind of the rule of thumb is Distress Oxides have a pigment ink in them. So if you're going to use blending brushes with Distress Oxides, you should not use the same blending brushes with your regular Distress inks or water-based dye inks. Me personally, this creative chick does not like to use blending brushes with Distress Oxides. Because of the pigment property in Distress Oxides, they blend really, really nicely with the ink blending tools, with the foam. I prefer that. Blending brushes, because they have all of their little fine fibers, these get really gunked up with the pigment property ink of Distress Oxide. So I only use my blending brushes for ink blending regular Distress inks or water-based dye inks like Lawn Fawn. And then I use my ink blending tools to blend oxides. That's it. But if you're going to use blending brushes with oxides, I know a lot of people like to, you should use different brushes for oxides versus your other inks. Okay. Hello, Jana. Hello, Brianne. Good to see you here. Hello, Leslie. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to flip the camera. If I remember how to do that. Let's see here. I keep switching back on what software I'm using for lives, and yeah, I forget. I forget what I'm doing. Okay. So we are going to be creating, or I am going to be creating this card here tonight. This is using Hero Arts stamps and dies, and then Distress watercolor pencils. So let's get started. So the stamp that I'm using is this cling stamp from Hero Arts, and it's called Christmas Rose Bold Prints. If you guys are watching on YouTube, all of the supplies are linked in the description of this video. If you're watching on Facebook, the link to my blog post is linked in the caption, and all of the supplies are listed over on my blog post. So either way, you guys can find a list of the products being used. And so, yeah, so this is the Hero Art stamp set I'm using. And then this is the fancy die. It's a Merry Christmas, or it's called Christmas Message Fancy Die. So that's what we're using for the sentiment. I'm using Distress watercolor cardstock. This is the only watercolor cardstock I ever use. I love it because it's a true white. It has a textured side and a smooth side. So depending what mood or look I want, and the price point's really good. I used to kind of buy different watercolor paper with a coupon on sale, and I had all these different kinds of watercolor cardstocks, and they all act differently. But now that I'm just using one kind, I know how it's going to act, I know how it's going to react, and I know the results I'm going to get from it. So it just makes it much, much easier for me here in my studio. So that's that. And then I'm using Distress watercolor pencils. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, I'm obsessed. I have been sharing a lot of projects with these, but most importantly, I shared a comparison of coloring with the Distress watercolor pencils and Copics. That information is over on my website. And I know I'm going to get the question, and I love this question, but I am going to be planning a class with these in early 2023. So if you're not subscribed to my email newsletter, you want to make sure that you do that when you go over to visit my website. So you can see I'm using gold metallic paper, and then you'll see we're embossing, and we're using some glitter, of course, glitter all of the things. All right. I pre-did some stuff, but I wanted to start from the beginning and give you guys a quick rundown of how I do my embossing, because I think sometimes people are struggling with getting a nice embossed image, and I wanted to show that as well. Yes, Wash Ashore is reminding everybody on YouTube to like this video. That just helps people find it right now while I'm live, and it also helps people find the replay as well. So always appreciate you guys liking it, and like it on Facebook as well. Awesome. All right. So I already have the cling mounted stamp here in my MISTI. I just decided not to take it out when I was working on this card earlier this week. Anytime that I want the detail of something to show up really well, I use the smooth side of the Distress watercolor cardstock. So that's what I'm going to use right now. I'm going to use a little bit of repositionable Tombow adhesive to kind of put this down in my MISTI. Get that into place. And I'm going to be using Versamark tonight because I'm going to be embossing with gold embossing powder. When I am embossing with white embossing powder, I use white pigment ink, but because we're using gold tonight, I'm going to use a Versamark. And this is my public service announcement for you guys. If you have been stamping for quite a while, you probably have owned your Versamark ink pad for a long time. Mine is probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, and I use it a lot. And this week, I actually re-inked it. I'm sure I've re-inked it before, but it's been a long, long time. And so I re-inked it this week, and it was like, oh my gosh, it worked so much better. So this is your public service announcement to re-ink your Versamark pad. And before I ink that up, I'm going to prep my cardstock with the Rabbit Hole Designs Cottontail Powder Tool. This is going to take any of the static cling off of my cardstock, my distress watercolor cardstock, before I emboss. When I pressed the paper down onto my MISTI, I left some oils behind from my hands. This is going to take all of that off. And I sell these over on my website, shirkus.com. Love this tool. Yay! I love to see that some of you guys are actually crafting tonight. Good job, good jobs. A lot of you either have the distress watercolor pencils or are excited to get yours. That's awesome. Yeah, my pad hasn't started to peel off yet, but it's an oldie time. I know I've had it a long time. All right, so I just inked up the stamp with the Versamark. I'm telling you, Yvonne, re-ink yours. You're going to feel amazing. It was almost like putting a brand new bra on. Yeah. So for those of you guys that don't know, I am teaching a couple in-person classes this fall for the first time since March of 2020. And so I head to Connecticut tomorrow to teach at Papercraft Clubhouse. And I'm a little frazzled, you guys. I'm not going to lie. A little frazzled. So I might be a bit punchy tonight during live, but you guys will be okay with that, right? So I am using the Brutus Monroe gold embossing powder. This has been the favorite gold that I have found. I recently, like in the past couple years, tried a bunch of different golds because I wasn't happy. And I'm very happy with this one. And I'm getting weird impressions. So weird, all these little flecks. And now you guys are going to be like, yeah, sure, that powder tool works great. I don't know why those are showing up. But we're going to keep going because I'm not going to be watercoloring this one tonight, but I just kind of wanted to show you my process. I know sometimes I get comments from people who, even if I prep stuff ahead of time, they're like, I really wish I could have saw you do XYZ. So that's what I'm doing. We're going to go with it. I don't know what happened. There's probably something on my stamp because it's been sitting here open. You know what it probably is Mr. Harley hair. But we're going to go with it. Yay, Lori, you're going to be at Papercraft Clubhouse on Sunday. I'm so excited. And Laura is going to be there. So it's in Westbrook, Connecticut, Brandy. Papercraft Clubhouse. It's kind of my local store, even though it's 2.5 hours away. Beth says, definitely show us XYZ. Okay, I'm showing you XYZ, you guys. So when I do heat embossing, I like to use the Wagner heat tool. You guys probably know I love my Ranger heat tool, but I use the Wagner when I'm heat embossing, and I use my Ranger when I'm doing inky techniques. And now I am going to emboss. So I like to kind of preheat my embossing gun, let it run a little bit. Awesome, Sharon. I will see you Saturday. Hello, Sharna. I'm telling you, Jana, re-ink your Versamark. That's gonna be worth watching me live tonight, is just reminding you to re-ink. It's those silly little things that we forget to do. Jen says it's the kitty's hair, definitely. It certainly is, because Mr. Harley has been sleeping up here on my desk, and he was right near where I was leaving my Misty open. But we're just going to do a quick emboss here so you guys can kind of see. I'm not going to be watercoloring this one, so I'm not super worried about it. I'll come up with some creative use for it later. But this Brutus Monroe gold embossing powder, the ultra fine, is awesome, you guys. And I have it linked in the supplies. Hopefully you're still hearing me okay with the embossing gun running. Yeah, Jen said that Mr. Harley wanted to be talked about. He definitely did. So you guys can see, here's the embossing. Again, no judging on those little extra marks. We're gonna cooking show style it and pull this out. Okay, so I did a little bit of watercoloring ahead of time just because I know sometimes it can take a while to watercolor, and I didn't want to, you guys know me, I try not to make these lives too long. Jana has her kitty's hair on her crafty stuff too. So, all right. So I've been getting some questions how I'm going to store the distress watercolor pencils. Am I going to keep them in their sets, or am I going to Roy G. Biv them? I'm actually probably going to take all of them out of here and put them in the distress storage tin so I can kind of rummage through them and pick out the color that I want. But what I did just do is I actually just ordered a second set. And the reason why is because I have been using these so much, you guys can see that mine are starting to get a little messy. And I'm not mad about that. That means they're loved. But because one of the techniques I like to do is actually dip the pencil in the water, and we'll talk about that. But I want to have this set that's going to be my messy set where I will dip it in water, dip a wet paintbrush on it. But I want another set that is the one that I'll actually sharpen and have a fine point. So I ordered a whole nother set. Hopefully it'll be here soon. Actually, I ordered them from Simon Says Stamp, and they shipped this day after I ordered them, which, you guys, is amazing considering it's Stamptember and the amount of orders they must be getting right now. I was very, very, very impressed. So paintbrushes. I don't use any fancy paintbrushes. Actually, Jana's here tonight. I think I actually won these black velvet brushes, Jana, from our little gift exchange in Ohio. And I love them, and I do use them sometimes, but I'm not very good with them. I don't know how to explain it. I have a hard time controlling them. So the brushes that I like and I often link to is this set of inexpensive brushes from Ranger. And you guys can see these are loved, very loved. Like, look at them, right? I kind of leave them in paint water for days sometimes. I do a lot of art journal stuff with them, so I'm a bit rougher. This is a great price point. I think it's like $8 for all of these brushes. So I use these a ton. And then I also have these two basic brushes from Blick Arts, a number 4 and a number 2 round, which honestly is what's included in this set as well. I've just gotten much more used to using this Blick Arts one. So In my world, you don't need an expensive brush to be able to watercolor. Yes, these are, a lot of mine are the old Claudine Helmuth ones, Nikki. Yeah, you can see. But they've just Ranger just doesn't obviously have Claudine's name on them anymore, and they still sell them as their Ranger brushes. They're still the same ones. All right, let me grab actually that background I just watercolored. We're gonna use the back side just so I can just show you 3 quick ways of how I like to use these watercolor pencils. I've also been getting a lot of comments on my blog, what makes them so special? I already own watercolor pencils. Why do I need them? If you already own watercolor pencils that you love, you don't probably need these. If you don't order or own watercolor pencils, I think they're a great purchase. I think the price point is awesome. The color palette is awesome. The quality is awesome. But if you love distress and the color palette of distress, then whether you own watercolor pencils already or not, I think you need them. Does that make sense? And then off camera, I have my collapsible water cup that I love from Faber-Castell. So the 3 different ways that I've been using these distress watercolor pencils. One way is to just scribble some of the pigment wherever your shadow is going to be and go in with a clean wet brush. I add water to where I just scribbled to kind of make a nice pool of color. Okay, so it'll look like this. Then I clean my brush and I go back in with a clean brush, pull the color from that scribbled area and get a nice gradient like so. So that's number 1. Also with number 1, and this is seedless preserves if anybody cares, but also with number 1, I can scribble on some seedless preserves and then maybe a little barn door. So I'll show you guys. See the 2 colors there? Go in with a clean brush. Again, I wet where I did my scribbling, kind of pull up that ink. So there's a good puddle of ink there right now, or watercolor pencil, I guess I should say. And then with a clean brush, I pull that color out. And here, if I want to get even lighter, clean your brush again and pull that color out. Okay, and that's with 2 colors. So that's the way number 1 that I use watercolor pencils. The other way that I've been using is I take a clean wet brush and I just go right to the tip of the pencil. Sorry, it's not focusing. And I pick that pigment up. Then I can go in and lay that down wherever I want the shadow because it's going to be heavily pigmented. So I'm going to have a lot of color on the brush. And it looks like that. And then with a clean brush, I can pull the color out. Okay. And again, you could do that with multiple colors as well. And then the third way that I have been enjoying, and this is kind of what's making my pencils a bit messy, but again, I'm not minding because I'm enjoying the process, is I take the pencil, I dip it in the water. That's going to soften it a little bit. You don't want to leave it in there forever. It's not going to ruin your pencil. Go in and scribble where the shadow is. So you guys can see all of that pigment that was laid down. And then I'm going to pull the color out with a clean water brush. Okay. So those are the 3 ways. And there's a million other ways, you guys. And again, I am going to be teaching a class. So we'll get more in depth, but those are the 3 ways that I have been watercoloring with the Distress watercolor pencils. So Tracy has a question. Yeah, they do look like little jellyfish. And look at me pulling the purple one, you guys. All my purple loving friends out there. Tracy has a question. She says, do you have a clean and dirty water cup? So Tracy, I do not. And I never do. So I know everybody that is a super amazing watercolorist would be cringing right now. My friend Dawn, who owns W+9, is one that comes to mind. She commented on one of my posts about how beautiful my card was and using the watercolor pencils. And I said, coming from her, that means a lot because the stuff that she does with watercolors is incredible. But I just keep things simple. So no, I have a very dirty water bucket and it gets dirtier and dirtier and I keep coloring, but my colors look pretty good. This was a very dirty water bucket when I colored this. They don't look murky to me. So I do not. You're welcome. Happy to share. Okay, so let's get started. So that was just a quick little demo. And now I am going to start to watercolor. So I'm going to start with these berries. And what I did with those is one of the ways I just showed you is I took the candied apple watercolor pencil and I'm scribbling a little V in the base of the berries where I want that shadow. Okay. So let's see, where are all my berries? This is when it's like, where's Waldo, right? Let's see, that might be it because I already colored some berries. So I took the candied apple and now I'm going to take seedless preserves. This is the one I did just dip in water. So I'm just going to blot it on my cloth gently just so it's not dripping. And I'm going in and adding a little V over the candied apple V. Remember I said you can mix your 2 colors. So you guys can see that, hopefully. Is that showing up? But you can see I just layered the 2 colors right there. Samistic Design said, I only use 1 water cup because when I have 2, they get mixed up. And you know what? That's probably why I only use 1 as well. I like to keep things simple. Kelly, I cannot wait to see you on Sunday. Woohoo! Reunited. Okay, so Beth's asking, do you ever dab the brush off onto a paper towel after dipping in the water? So what I was going to explain is the trickiest thing about watercoloring, whether you're watercoloring with watercolor pencils, inks, paints, whatever medium watercoloring way you're using, the trickiest thing is learning how to control your water. Obviously, a lot of water, you're not going to have as much control. The color is going to be lighter. Less water, your color is going to stay more intense. You're going to have a little bit more control. And this is why I personally don't like to use a water brush because I don't feel like I have as much, and the water brush with the water already in it, I don't feel like I have as much control over the water. So something that I do is once I dip my brush in the water, I kind of rub it on the edge like this, and then I touch it to my hand. The touch allows me to know how much water's on my brush. It's weird. Like I could look at my brush and not really tell, but like right now I have a lot of water. Touching it to my hand, I can tell that right away. If it's dry, I could tell. It's just a way I get into this habit, and I've noticed, like, I look down at my hand later after coloring, and I've got all these streaks of color. But it's just a habit I've gotten into. I don't like to do it on paper towel or even the cloth that's in my lap, because I don't have a sense of how much water's on my brush, and it's all about knowing how much water. So going in with a brush that's not super wet, I'm going to go into where I just scribbled those two colors at the base of the berries. And I'm actually going to do all 6 berries at once. I'm kind of loosening up those pigments, adding some water to them, getting that pigment to move around a little bit. Then I'm going to clean my brush, touch it to my hand, and I'm going to pull that color away. So you guys can see I'm pulling that color away from the shadowed area. And I'm going to go out of the lines so much tonight. So this is my dilemma, you guys, when I go live on both YouTube and Facebook. And this is not pertaining to my classes. One service that I use that I'm using tonight, I love because I can see all the comments so well for both YouTube and Facebook. The other service that I really love, I can't see the comments as well, but I can zoom in to what I'm coloring. So this is my dilemma every month when I go live with you guys for Get Crackin'. For my classes, I don't need to see comments from multiple places. So I use the service that allows me to zoom in. But anyways, I digress. All right. So there's my berries. And again, no judging for coloring out of the lines when I'm live. But you guys can see how pretty those are. Yeah, the hand trick, it's weird, but it works. Yeah, Megan said, just don't mix up your water and whatever you're drinking. Well, luckily what I'm drinking is in this really cute mermaid cup with a straw. So I'm good there, but that is a good reminder. All right, so now let's go ahead to our holly leaves. And for the holly leaves, I'm just looking. It looks like I used peeled paint. So I'm going to go in right with my pencil, and I'm going to scribble in some at the base of the holly leaf and go up the vein a little bit. I'm doing all the holly leaves that I can find. Again, where's Waldo? I love this image, you guys, from Hero Arts. It's so pretty and super fun to color. You guys could use Copics, watercolor, colored pencils. Let's see. It's a little bit of holly peeking up there. I think that's it. So I'll just show you guys. You can see here, I just added a little bit of the peeled paint to the base of the holly leaves, and I went up the veins. All right. So I'm going to keep my peeled paint pencil in my hand, my left hand. I'm right-handed because I'm going to probably pick some color off of the pencil as I'm coloring. But the first thing that I'm going to do is just like I did with the berries, I'm adding a wet brush to where I scribbled. What that's doing is loosening up the pigment, making it a pool of color, cleaning my brush off, and then I'm pulling that color to color in the rest of the leaves. So I want it to be a little bit darker. I'm going right with a wet brush to the tip of my pencil, going back in where I originally shadowed, laying some more color down, going in with a wet brush, wet clean brush, and pulling the color again. The one thing about watercoloring that is a little bit different, I feel, than Copic coloring is you kind of play with it a little bit more. Copic coloring, you kind of do 1, 2, 1, and then you're done. But watercoloring, you can keep adding and playing with it a little bit more, or I tend to play a little more when I'm watercoloring. So Jen asked, how am I doing with my steps this week with my busy schedule? Those of you guys know I'm doing a step bet challenge. I did one in July to August and I rocked it. It was so much fun. I loved it. We went on vacation. I knew coming back from vacation, I needed to start another challenge because life was going to get really busy and I was going to become sedentary again if I didn't have the challenge. So I'm doing all right, Jen. This week's been a challenge for sure. I'm having some pain in my shins again and just no time. When I go out for my walk to get my steps in, my step count is probably at 700. It's so low. And this is the problem because I sit all day working. But I think after my live tonight, I'm going to do some more steps to try to get a power day today, making it work. It's definitely a challenge, but it's worth it because I do feel so much better. All right. Hello, Kathy. She just got her steps in. She's part of the Step Bet Challenge. It's really so motivating and very inspiring. We're all supporting each other in the group. No worries about accidentally hitting a sad face. Awesome. Good job, Yvonne. Beth said, Shirkus hand dab method. If Brienne's still on, maybe she'll come up with like a clever term for my hand dab. She came up with shirk merch, which I love for my sweatshirts and t-shirts. Shirk merch. Super cute. Natalie says, I've lost 8 pounds since the summer step bet. It's awesome. Oh my gosh, Natalie, that is so awesome. So I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I don't ever weigh myself. I just don't. But Chris has been mentioning lately that he thinks I have lost weight just seeing me. And I did weigh myself before the first step bet challenge. I was like, I'm just going to weigh myself. And then someday again, when I weigh myself, I'll see if I've made any progress. And so I weighed myself back on July 1st. And I haven't weighed myself since, but I weighed myself this morning and I've lost 7 pounds. So awesome job, Natalie. We're rocking it. I feel better not sitting all day. Kathy says, I can't tell you how many nights I'm here watching videos while I walk in place. I hear ya. I think that's going to be my night tonight. I need one more power day this week. And I think tonight's going to be the night I've got to get it. Because tomorrow I drive to Connecticut and it's going to be hard to get my steps in when I'm sitting and teaching all day. It's definitely going to be hard. But all right, so we're just finishing up these holly leaves. I'll bring it up to the camera closer for you guys to see. Always feel free to chime in with questions. I'll hopefully not miss them too much. Repeat your question if I do. But you guys can see the holly leaves are all colored in. So pretty. I also just love the look of watercolor, that it's not necessarily as smooth as Copics. Same here, Natalie. She said, I haven't changed anything else, just walking. So it's a good reminder that sitting all day is really not good for me. Same here, Natalie. I haven't done anything different with my diet or anything. It just proves that our bodies need to move. All right, so now we're going to do the little flowers. And for that, I used candied apple and villainous potion. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go around and add a little bit of each color to the base of the flower. So I'm going to go around and just dab some villainous potion first. I already did a bunch of these flowers just because they're so little, it's hard for you guys to see. So I pre-did them before the live. But you guys can see here, see the two, whoops, I hit the camera. See the two colors? See how the Villainous Potion and the Candy Apple's right there? That is gonna mix together and make a whole nother color. So Megan says, you know the wrist sweatbands. I saw an artist use that instead of her hand. That's a cool idea, Megan. I think the reason why I like to use my hand is by feeling how much water on my brush, I know if it's the amount of water I want. So I really like the touch aspect of it, but that's a fun idea. Kathy says she bought set number 1 of the pencils and love them. I'll get the other 2 with my next Stamptember orders. Oh, they're great, you guys. I hope that everybody loves them so that Ranger will release the other distress colors because, you know, we need them all. All right, so now I've dabbed out the color, made it all blobby, and I'm going to go in with a clean brush, just a little bit of water, and pull the color to try to get a little bit of shadow and highlight. If you feel you have too much water on your brush, you can see I just touched it to my hand to blot some off. I find all coloring relaxing, but watercoloring is a whole nother level. I find it very, very calming. Make sure you guys, if you haven't seen it already, head to my website, shirkus.com, because I have shared many projects lately with these pencils, including the comparison post of coloring with Distress and Copics. So there's our little flowers. Oh gosh, I just saw 2 more little flowers. They're multiplying. Oh, yeah, no worn lipstick. Trying to think what other colors I miss. We've got no mowed lawn. I'm going to just color these other little ones this way since they're so teeny. Scribbling the color might be tricky. So the other thing I forgot to mention, you guys, I embossed in gold because it's a holiday card and it goes. But if you're new to watercoloring, embossing your image is another great thing to do because it'll build up this wall around your image and help you kind of stay in the lines better when you're watercoloring. So definitely keep that in mind if you're newer to watercoloring. Emboss your images. All right, so now we're going to use mustard seed and we're going to do the centers of the small flowers, the highlight on the berries. And for that, I'm just going to pick the color off the pencil with a wet brush. Be careful doing it over your project because this is a fun way to add splatters. So I kind of catch myself. Elizabeth says coloring is relaxing for her too, except for when her little kitten tries to help. My friend Jen says she gets stressed with coloring. She's too much of a perfectionist. I think the more you would do it, Jen, you would find it relaxing. Sharna says, even if I dab off on a paper, I still touch my hand. Yeah, because you still want to get that sense of how much water before you kind of go and blob into your project. So I'm just adding these yellow highlights. Okay, we are going to be using that again on the centers of the pink flowers, but I want to get the pink laid down first. Okay, so the bigger flowers. What I did with those is I actually used picked raspberry and kitsch flamingo. Okay. And because these are larger area, I really wanted to keep that highlight true, that kitsch flamingo true. So what I'm going to do first is actually scribble on the kitsch flamingo. Oh, this is tattered rose. Oops-a-daisies. I'm just going to color right over that with kitsch flamingo. And I'm kind of doing it at the centers of the flowers because down towards the base, it's going to be dark. And then I'm going to have it go even lighter at the tips. So I'm kind of just scribbling this in the centers. Tracy says, coloring images is what got me into stamping. So did you have some fun adult coloring books, Tracy? So again, this is just kitsch flamingo. I am not thinking about it too much, but I'm just scribbling in the center, leaving the base empty and the tips empty. Have I mentioned how pretty this set is, you guys? Love it. So Hero Arts is doing a fun event in November, their holiday stamp along. If you guys aren't familiar, I'm part of it. I'll be teaching a fun little aspect of it. And all the details are on their website. I've linked it in my class schedule as well on my website. All right, so that was with kitsch. So now what I'm going to do is go in with a wet brush, pick up some picked raspberry on my brush. I can tell I'm a little bit too wet, so I blot it on my hand. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the base of the flower and paint some of this while my brush is loaded down with color. I'm going around the stamen, trying to avoid it because I'm going to make them yellow after. Again, because I heat emboss this image, it's much easier. So you can see there, it's two distinct areas. We got kitsch and we've got picked raspberry. So I'm going to clean my brush, tap it to my hand, and pull this picked raspberry up into the kitsch. Kitsch flamingo is getting wet, but I'm not going all the way to the tip of the flower. I'm just kind of blending between the picked raspberry and the kitsch flamingo, leaving the very tip of the flower still white. I'll bring it up to the camera for you guys to see what we got going on here. Okay. And now with a clean brush, not a lot of water, I'm going to pull from the tip to just get a little bit of that kitsch flamingo so that it'll stay pretty light. If I feel I have too much pigment on my brush color, you can see I'm wiping it on my hand. Yes, you could use a cloth. I feel like I have more control if I'm feeling what's going on. Okay. Now the folded over part of the flower is going to be very light, so I'm going to bring in some Kitsch Flamingo to paint that. But under that fold is going to be dark. My friend Emily Midget too, she designs a lot of floral stamp images for Pink Fresh. Again, she's much better at this than me, but I just approach it how I approach it. So you guys can see how that petal really came alive, adding that shadow under the fold. Okay. I was one with the marker poster and the large tube. I love it, Tracy. That's great. So again, I'm going around with a wet brush, loosening up that Kitsch Flamingo. Go in with a clean wet brush and pick up some picked raspberry and put that at the base of the petals. Avoiding the stamen. Clean my brush. Go in and pull that picked raspberry, the darker pink, up into the lighter. I'm just doing little dabs and swipes. Again, if you have a lot of pigment on your brush, I'm just tapping it off on my hand, but clean that brush off. These outer petals, I don't want to go in with straight picked raspberry, so I'm actually picking some of that pigment up from the center that I watercolored. You also can kind of go in with some water, like I could dab on some water and just let it sit there a second. And this is probably when you'd want to use a clean paper towel, but I don't. I just go right in with my flour sackcloth and just blot up that water. And that's going to pull the color away so that you'll get your highlight back. So you can see that one right there. Yeah, I see your guys' comment about the tad echoey. I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for that tonight. Again, the other service that I use, it's harder for me to keep up with the comments on my live on Facebook and YouTube, which is actually a good question, you guys. I know I have a lot of people who follow me on Facebook. If I only did these lives on YouTube, those of you that are following the live right now on Facebook, would that mean you wouldn't be able to watch me? Let me know in the comments. Because I'm tempted to just do YouTube, but I don't want to lose any of you guys. The weather is definitely cooler for walking this challenge versus August and July. Oh my gosh. It was so hot, you guys. Even Chris was like, "I'm so proud of you for going out," 'cause it was like swampy. All right, I'm blending the picked raspberry up into the Kitsch Flamingo. Kind of like to let the water move a little bit too. So I'm getting from some Facebook peeps that it's easier for you when I'm on Facebook, but you'd probably still come over to YouTube. Remember, you guys can always sign up for text alerts, so you'll get an alert 15 minutes before I go live. Um, on YouTube, you can kind of click that little bell and it'll alert you when I'm live. Or if I have a new video, I think. I have a lot to learn about YouTube, you guys. I'm behind the 8 ball when it comes to that, for sure. These are so pretty. I love watercoloring this. I'm gonna bring in a little bit more picked raspberry. While your cardstock is still wet, what I'm doing is dabbing some of this darker color in and really just letting it move with the water. It's kind of one of those things, you can't be afraid of the water when you're watercoloring. You got to kind of embrace it. So there's our other little flower. You can always use your Ranger heat tool too if you get a little too crazy with the water and you need to simmer it down. It's sounding like the sound is okay for those of you on YouTube, but it's echoey for those of you watching on Facebook. And I love to hear that you guys like the text alerts. I only want them to be helpful, not obnoxious. All right. So I'm going into the base with some picked raspberry. I know I'm going to want to bring it up under these folds. Michelle, you just said the sound is great on YouTube, but you're commenting from Facebook. So I wonder if you were just going to check it out. If you guys aren't signed up for the text alerts, the details for that are on my blog post today, my Get Crackin' on Christmas blog post. So if you do want to sign up for those, I basically just text you before I go live. So if I'm going live for Get Crackin' or if I'm going live with Kelly Marie from Lawn Fawn for the Create With Us classes, I will also send a text before a big registration for something like a Creative Journey art retreat or crop on the Cape. So it's not a ton of texts, although I feel like a lot of us nowadays get unlimited text. You don't get charged. So this is another flower. This is coming together pretty quickly. I was nervous that it would take me too long. Again, watercoloring, and this is a fairly big image, but it's working out. Hopefully you guys are not bored. And maybe at least those of you that are working on your own projects too. It's like we're hanging out and chit-chatting, right? So if you haven't signed up yet, I have my online classes this fall. Wicked Fangtastic, Awesome Autumn, and Furry and Bright. Scrappy Chic in the US is selling kits. And I had somebody email me, which I'm glad she said this because I never thought of it this way, but the kits are stamped images, meaning you don't need to buy the product. some people have thought the kits meant they bundled the product together for you. The kits are an affordable way to take a class with me, try it out. Warning, you'll probably be enabled to want some of the product after, but it's still a great way to be able to do classes with me. So definitely check those out. So Scrappy Chic in Michigan is sending in the US, and the Paper Crafters Workshop in Canada is sending in Canada. And I know they're almost sold out, but they still have some. Ooh, I like this one, came out good. There isn't an exact date, Lego Mama, when Wicked Fantastic is available. That's a self-paced class, and it's the first time I'm doing that. But I'm hoping it's going to be next week sometime, and I will send an email out to everybody that's signed up for that class when the links to the videos are available. But I don't have an exact day. It's kind of the first time I've done a self-paced, and even though I'm not teaching live, there's still just a lot to get done to make that content available. So it's a new endeavor that I'm trying to juggle amongst everything else. So, but soon. How was my concert the other day? Oh, Pearl Jam, you guys. So good. So my friend Melissa and I were planning to go see Pearl Jam at Madison Square Gardens in New York in March of 2020. Which obviously that concert was postponed until just Sunday night. Or was it Monday night? No, Sunday night. So my friend Melissa and I drove down to the city. We hit a ton of traffic getting there. It took us way too long. But we got there in time for the concert, and we had an amazing time at the concert. The energy was amazing. And then we woke up the next morning and drove home. So we were gone for less than 24 hours. But it was great. Really filled my cup up. So now I have a brush that is not super wet. It's loaded with a lot of picked raspberry, and I'm just dabbing it on these little sprigs. I don't know what they are, but I wanted them to be pink. There's not a whole lot of space on some of them because of the embossing, so I just dab and let the color rest wherever it's going to rest. My Pearl Jam Pal's kid caught a tail. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Yeah, I love how Eddie Vedder throws those out. I will let you know, Brienne, when the content is available for Wicked Fantastic. You do not need to be part of the class Facebook group, but I'll post in the Facebook group, and I will also send an email to everybody that's signed up. Basically, I'll let you know when the content's available, and I'm hoping that's going to be next week. I think I answered your question. I don't know. Like I said, you guys, my brain is a little mush. I'm rusty. I haven't taught in real life for a long time. I'm excited though. Can't wait to see everybody. I'll also be teaching in person at Firefly Farm in Minnesota in October. I dripped water on my background. All right. So looking good, you guys. I've got a little bit of yellow to do on the stamen. Nikki, when you said your friend's kid caught a Tambo, was it at Monday night's or Sunday night's concert or just in the past? Thanks, Lori. Well, you'll be there, so you'll know. You'll know one way or the other. So I'm doing the same thing. I don't have a very wet brush. Loading it up with pigment, mustard seed, and just dabbing um, the stamen in the center of these pink flowers. And it's okay if you go out of the lines a little bit. It's kind of the beauty of watercoloring, honestly. I think you can really get away with that. So cute. Of course, we're going to glitter some things. It wouldn't be a holiday card without a little bling bling. I swear when I was just watercoloring, oh, here it is. I missed the center of a flower and these berries. Okay. So there you go, you guys. Watercoloring with Distress Watercolor pencils. Yay. Kathy says she's being brave and going back in and adding more color to darken her flower. She goes, I like that about these pencils. Yeah, you can really layer the color. Nikki says, I wish I had a kid, aka Tambo Bait. So Melissa and I were in pretty nosebleed seats on Sunday night, which we were actually okay with because it wasn't as crowded and the energy was still just so amazing. We've gone to so many Pearl Jam concerts together. We actually talked about it. Some of them, you know, we've had great seats. Some of them we've had far away seats. It's all good. I'm just going to zap this with the heat tool, just kind of let everything dry a little bit. Hello, Kathleen. Thanks for hopping on. All right. So now that this is dry, what I did, and I did again a little bit of pre-work using this Christmas Messages fancy die from Hero Arts. I die cut it once out of gold metallic paper. Okay. Then I cut it 3 times out of white cardstock and I stacked it so it's chunky. I'm going to be putting the gold over that so you guys will be able to see that process. And the holly, I made sure I had 1 out of distressed watercolor cardstock. And what I did is I put some of my low tack tape on the back so I can watercolor the center of this holly. But I didn't want it to fall out just because this will make it easier to color. So I'm going to go in with some peeled paint on the leaves. Chris has actually been counting card bases for me for the kits for classes this weekend. And I'm sure he's grumbling that I'm teaching in person because he didn't have to do all that when I've been teaching online. But it's much appreciated. I'm going to pull that color out a little bit. Can hear Jack squeaking at Chris. Jack and Gus don't really have a good meow. They just do these little, I don't know, like squeaks. This is actually a stamp, Kathleen, that I watercolored with Distress Watercolor pencils. This is the stamp here from Hero Arts. So thank you. I did make pretty paper. I cracked myself up. Just grabbing some of this candied apple to do my berries real quick. Remember, you can go out of the lines because we're just going to punch these little pieces out. You'll see it'll make sense once I start assembling. All right, I'm going to set that aside. So like I said, I did 3 white Merry Christmases and 1 gold. I already stacked the 3 white again, so I don't take 5 hours tonight. And I'm going to just take a little bit of glue tube and draw it on top of the white so I can layer the gold. Kind of tracing the whole word, but I'm not worrying if adhesive goes everywhere as long as it goes most places. And you don't want too much. I don't want it oozing out everywhere. So I just do a gentle squeeze. And the trick when you're doing any type of sentiment stacking is don't fight your paper. Your paper has a memory. It knows the shape it's supposed to be. So you can see I'm just going to kind of plop it down. And because I'm using a wet adhesive, I'll have a little bit of wiggle time where I can just gently adjust it. Great. I then flip it over and give it a good press. Hi, Sarah. Got to get cracking. 3 months. All right. So that's going to go on here. And then let's see, is this dry? Yep. So what we're going to do is I'm going to basically layer this upside down and put some foam squares behind it to hold it in. Let's see. Doing a little surgery. So you can see I'm just going to place these in. And I'm purposely working upside down because I'm going to put some foam squares behind it to hold all these pieces in. And you don't have to do this with the holly. The sentiment alone, the Merry Christmas sentiment, is super pretty. So it's not necessary, but it's extra. This one little berry keeps hopping out. It's like a puzzle. All right, so now that I have those in place, I'm going to use the black foam strips and just go across. So again, it's going to hold these in place. I've got Mexican jumping beans, you guys, for these berries. All right. Stay. Perfect. So you can see that's just kind of holding it all in place with the gold trim. Yeah, I have my slider door open, Kathleen. It's like cool, a little chilly, but I got my sweatshirt on, still have flip-flops on, of course. And yeah, I like hearing those night sounds. Hopefully it's not too distracting for you guys. So I'm just using Lawn Fawn glue tube again on the back of this sentiment to adhere it to the card. Perfect. Oh, just want to put some on this swish of the tea. Place that down. And then we'll add our holly. And then, because I know that metallic cardstock is pricey, we're actually going to have a metallic gold border, but we're just going to use this piece that I cut the sentiment out from. Tricky I am. So I'm going to just use my ATG gun. And add this onto here. Nobody will ever know. Right? And then you guys don't have a heart attack, but I'm going to add these to card bases. Because it's really time to get cracking. So I've got some side fold or horizontal fold card bases. So you can see we're going to hide that die cut. I know, a card base, you guys, don't have a heart attack. But this just shows you how serious I am. It's really time to get cracking. Don't ask me how many cards I've made this month with card bases, because the answer would be 0. But holiday cards. Last year, I sent a lot of holiday cards out, which I was so excited. And honestly, the most time-consuming part was putting them on their card bases. And I cursed myself while I did it, but I didn't learn my lesson. Look how cute. Oh, we still have the glitter too. Oh, can't forget that. Oh, I love everybody that is surprised I'm doing card bases. Megan says it's going to snow on the Cape because I'm adding a card base. I know, it's crazy. Crazy. But I'll thank myself later when I fill these out for somebody. I get my card bases cut at a local printer, so sometimes they're a little slightly off, which is totally fine. So I just trim them. All right, so let's glitter this one up. And what I used is the Distress Rock Candy. So let's see if we can get this to show, because see that? It looks like an actual berry. You guys see that? Is it coming up? Let me try to get to focus. So pretty in person. So I'm going to add it to the berries on the background. Just going to be generous with my Lawn Fawn glue tube. And if a berry's tucked behind the sentiment, that's okay. I'll just skip that part. The berries on this holly. I think I got it all. Oh, no. One more berry over here. All right, and because I was generous with the glue, I don't want it to smear, so I just take a spoon and pour little piles over. And then I let it sit like this until it's dry. And then I tap the excess off. I really let the glitter, that Distress Rock Candy, settle into the adhesive. So you guys can see my piles of glitter. But you can see here the finished product. You guys might hear Jack in the background. He's playing on the floor. He's got the zoomies. You got the zoomies? He just ran out. But look at that berry. I love it. And that's it, you guys. Let's see. Thanks for making it, Cheryl. Well, you can catch the beginning of the live on replay. Kathleen says, I shop the most and create and send the least. I know, I hear you. I think we all do that. Aw, no worries, Anne. You can catch the replay. Hopefully, I'm going to see you at Papercraft Clubhouse. I thought maybe I missed a question, so I'm just scrolling up. But no, I don't think I did. Aw, thank you so much, Susan. So good to see you guys. So that's it. That is Get Crackin' on Christmas for September. Yay. So these are the dates of the next Get Krackens. So I'll be live October 27th, November 17th, and does that say December 15th? It's very small on my screen. I think it's December 15th, but that seems really early. Maybe it's the 18th. You guys can probably read it better than me. Again, it's super, super small on my screen. So, but those are the dates for the next Get Crackin' on Christmas. Remember, I always post my card on my site on the third Thursday of the month, but sometimes the live has to be on a different night because of other things going on. Like I know October's pretty late because I think I'm in Minnesota for Get Crackin' on Christmas time. So Kathleen says it looks like the 18th, but she's blind. Awesome. Yay, Kathy. I'm glad you were playing with your Distress watercolor pencils tonight. I love it. Katie says, I wish you'd come back to impressive ideas. Hopefully someday, Katie. I'm only going to 2 stores this fall. I'm easing back into things. Oh, it's the 15th? I don't know. The graphic is much larger on Shirkus.com if you go to the Get Crackin' on Christmas part. Thank you so much, Mary Lou. I can't wait to see what you've created. You're always so good at using your supplies and doing something similar to me. Thank you so much, Leslie. Leslie is one of my crafty friends that also posts inspiration on Get Crackin' days. Awesome. The 15th. Thank you guys. I'm glad your eyeballs are all good. I was just checking on your site, on your vision. All right, you guys, well, have a great night and I will chat with you guys all soon. Thanks so much. Bye.